G'day guys, Mac here with the Outer Circle, and today we're talking Thousand Suns in Horus Heresy, or 30k, or Age of Darkness, however you want to say it. I think I have my William Shatner cadence on. The thing with the Thousand Suns is a lot of people, even now, are still a bit griefed over them, not quite sure how to deal with them and psychic heavy armies in general. Well, the trick with Thousand Suns is that unlike other psychic-heavy armies, such as the Wordbearers in 30k, they have some real Achilles heels, and you've just got to know how to exploit them. You see, there's a special rule that affects all models with the Legiones Astartes Thousand Suns special rule, and that's called Signs and Portents. It's a two-part special rule. The first is that any time a unit suffers wounds from perils of the warp, every unit in the detachment must make a pinning test. That's a pretty big deal. You can safely say that most units are going to be at best leadership 9. So there's a good chance that you'll pull off at least one pinning check over a whole army. That someone will fail. So all you've got to do is cause that perils to happen. How might you do this? Well, you could use Sisters of Silence, for example, or you might have some good Psychic Denial units, which causes the Thousand Suns player to expend more warp charge than they'd like to make sure their ability goes off. And remember, this happens on double sixes, not double ones. So you get penalised for succeeding with your abilities. The second part is that if all independent character units in the Thousand Suns detachment have been slain, then all surviving units are now -1 leadership for the rest of the game and can no longer make sweeping advances. So this rule kind of stacks, because if you kill off someone's characters, they're going to be taking any leadership checks because of that pinning now at -1. Any assault units such as the Kennetai Blade Occult or Assault Marines, that kind of thing, they're not going to be able to sweeping advance their enemies. If they win a combat, they're just going to stand there drilling afterwards. Consolidate at best. Further to this, if you kill all of the Thousand Suns players' characters, that's most of their warp charge gone. Yes, you might have someone who's being that guy and he's running a Sekhmet Cabal, just lots of Sekhmet Terminators. If he's got only 3 squads, which is generally all you'll get in a Sekhmet army, after you've paid for characters and things like that, if they've only got 3 squads, that's only 6 power dice. Yeah, they're going to get abilities off, but they're also going to fail to get some off each turn. And remember, they're not picking from the good spell pools. They're picking from Pyromancy and Telekinesis. Not the greatest disciplines of the Thousand Suns, we'll say. So, big kicker here, the big weakness of Thousand Suns, go for the characters. HQs are generally pretty easy to kill. Thousand Suns Marines are no tougher than regular Marines. Yes, you can take cult or Arcana, such as Pavoni, Raptora, Corvidae, Athenaean, or Pyre, and some of these will actually buff your survivability. Raptora straight away comes to mind because it adds Kind Shield, so +1 to your invulnerable save. A unit of Cataphractii Terminators with this will be a 3+ invul save, that is true. However, they're also sort of restricting themselves because they're going to have to try and use the Telekinesis discipline, which is not the best psychic discipline there is. And also, your troops' choices in the army will be restricted to whatever spell or cult that your HQ picks. So again, you'll be shoehorning your HQ into picking a certain category they may not want. Another thing to point out is that there's also the Osirion Dreadnought. Now, the Osirion Dreadnought is an upgrade to the regular Contemptor, and it becomes a HQ choice. This is important to keep in mind because it is not an independent character. If you have a couple of Osirians filling out your character slots in the HQ section of the Force Org chart, and you're left with only one regular Thousand Sun HQ, I've got really bad news for you if you lose that HQ. And there are plenty of armies that can do it. Solar Auxilia with Dracosans, they can do it. Mechanicum with cheesy Mechanicum bullshit. Ask Tim over at the Eye of Horus podcast what that is, but basically it's dark fire cannons and things like that, graviton imploders, all the nasty shit that Mechanicum has. They bring that stuff to the party, place it right, they can kill your HQ in turn 1 or 2. It's fucking crazy. They kill your HQ, your whole army's affected. The dice you have to cast powers with goes down. It's a massive Achilles heel, and people don't exploit it. People are focused on trying to kill units in the Thousand Suns army, and they forget that you kill the HQ, and it's kind of like killing the necromancers in old Warhammer Fantasy battles in a vampire's army. Once you killed all the wizards, units started crumbling. Well, it's the same thing, because the whole army gets weaker. Some factions, like the Wordbearers, have a right of war, which causes any doubles rolled when casting powers to be a perils warp, the warp test. That's huge. The Thousand Suns player could potentially kill his own HQ by failing a perils test. And I've seen it happen. I've done it myself. Just rolled a 1 on that perils table and sucked into the warp. And again, once that happens, every unit in the army is now -1 leadership. Everyone's got to take a pinning test. And no one can sweeping advance anymore. That is a fucking big deal. So Wordbearers players are sitting very pretty, because they don't have to do much. That's just a passive ability. That's great for them. People who are worried about psychic powers in general, my advice to you is save your dispel dice for the powers you're afraid of. You should know ahead of time what the Thousand Suns abilities are. Memorize the psychic tables. It's not that hard. And I'm not talking about like word for word what each spell does, but sort of keep in mind what the abilities are, what they do generally, and if a player says he's casting a power, double check what it is, what it does. Decide how much of a priority it is for you to dispel it. If it's a blessing, something they're casting on their own units, you're going to have a really hard time dispelling the warp charge. But if it's something they're casting on your units, it's going to be much easier. So these are the choices you're faced with. Certain things like invisibility, yeah, they're gonna fucking hurt because it's a stupid power. But at the same time, they might perils it, they might fail to get it off. If they do get it off, well, then that's less dice they can use on another power somewhere else. And hopefully, if they're doing that, you can focus on a part of the army that isn't being buffed with a psychic power. And that's the time when you do target other units. Anyway, I'm Mac with the Outer Circle. This is just a quick 7 or 8 minutes on Thousand Suns and then go to Achilles heel. Thanks all for watching. I'll see you all next time.